with Sailor planning to buy more Bitcoins, the Ethereum futures ETF potentially coming, and the probability for the Bitcoin spot ETF going up, will we see new all-time highs relatively soon? This and much more we're going to discuss in today's video. Hey and welcome, my name is Julian. On my channel it's all about making you crypto fit. My mission is to explain this exciting world of decentralization, blockchain, cryptocurrencies, much more in a very simple manner. I'm the CEO of the Cake Group. Most people from the retail side obviously associate that with Bake, but we have Levain, which is an enterprise arm. We do R&D with Birthday Research. We have a VC fund. So I try to wear different hats. Also, obviously, making all these videos, being a relatively large influencer, I obviously want to talk from different angles in all this and always try to bring some of the insights that you don't normally get on other channels. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, do me a favor, click the subscribe button. It's going to make the prices go up. Trust me, you don't want to risk prices not going up. So let's dive in. We're going to cover some of the bad news that happened in crypto over the last couple of days. We're going to cover some of the good news that happened. Let's start a bit with the tougher news. I think first and foremost, something we had covered many times already here on the channel is Binance. Now, I am one of the few people who have been talking about the entire first half of the year that Binance is the main reason why prices went up. Why? Very simple. They had to get rid of anything in their treasury that can be either frozen or can get, confiscated and so on. And so a lot of their stable coins, BUSD, any fiat balance, also USDC, also USDT, all of these things they wanted to get rid of, and they wanted to either have decentralized stablecoins. That's also why they're putting so much effort into decentralized stablecoins right now, because it allows them to have some counter to crypto without being confiscated. It's the main thing for them right now, or in the first half of the year. And obviously the news that came out here is that DOJ, Department of Justice, is looking into doing a criminal suit besides CFTC and the SEC. That's something I've been mentioning several times. It's something that I've been hearing behind the scenes a lot actually. And yeah, there the fear is, and I don't know, I'm not sure how much that article is. I mean, I don't know, that article was a bit weird, came out here. Semaphore leaked that article or posted that article saying that DOJ is worried about Binance not being backed with their coins, and so they don't want to have a bank run like they had on FTX. Now, I feel this is really weird because what's the story here? I mean, either they're backed or not backed, and if the emperor wears no clothes, at some point people will figure out. So, I don't know. I think that's a bit weird. I don't know if there's some other stuff that they're doing or trying to do. I have no clue. To me, that's a bit weird. It's something that I really think is gonna exacerbate more and more and more. So this is something I'm completely expecting, to be honest. It's something I mentioned at the beginning of the year together back then with Silvergate and the Digital Currency Group, and I think all those three are going down the same track. So that's definitely not bullish. That's definitely a bit scary. Let's see how that's kind of turning out. But I think the behavior we're seeing there is very expected. I think so far very predictable, and explains also the price action. We've seen a lot of that same over the past weeks. The other thing was the DeFi sector, especially on Ethereum. And there was a big shocker with Curve. A couple of things here to note. The co-founder of Curve, or founder of Curve, had almost 50% of the supply, and he locked it up and took $100 million loan against that. Now, that was, weird in the first place, but no one really cared about it. Where it really mattered was that a lot of this Curve, there was an attack on Curve. There was a re-entry attack in some of the pools, and that caused the price of Curve to really drop. He had a liquidation price of, I think, 40 cents, and the price dropped almost to 50 cents. So there was a very little buffer for him to get liquidated. And that liquidation, I think, would have not been able to actually occur because it would have wiped out Curve, and it would have wiped out a lot of the oracles in this case, and it would have had, very likely, very difficult to predict consequences for the entire Ethereum DeFi sector. Now, since most people understood that, they started to bail him out. It was basically a bailout in a sense where they went and did OTC deals with him. A lot of questionable people in that space did that. There was a lot of questionable dealings there, but at the end, they seem to be buying Curve at the discount, and there was a handshake agreement that they're not going to sell this for 6 months. That helped the price to recover, and he has been pushing up that liquidation price now. So yeah, that or pushing it down basically. I think now it's at 30 cents, so there's quite a buffer, and Curve also recovered. So still not out of the woods. Let's see how this goes. This is, I mean, on Frexland he also has a lot, and Frexland has this very aggressive interest rate. So let's see how that's going to turn out. But I think for now there's just too much interest to not have any issues on Curve, because it would really have unpredictable consequences for the rest of the market, especially the DeFi market. So yeah, a lot of help happening there, understandably, in that space. So let's see. But that was definitely a bit of a weird moment. Obviously, the interesting thing, it shows how transparent DeFi is, so that everyone was able to actually see those positions. That's a huge difference, where in CeFi you wouldn't have seen any of that. So everything would have been happening under the cover. And last but not least, let's go a bit more into the neutral kind of territory, if you want to call it. Tether came out with numbers for Q2. Their numbers are extremely strong. I mentioned this also on Twitter. Very difficult to kind of say, is this a scammy business or is this the most amazing business ever? Very difficult to judge from the numbers. To me, the weird part is just that they cannot get an audit. The attestations are pretty meaningless, to be fair. An audit is what really matters. And so, yeah, right now, I mean, and also, if I make a tweet about Tether, this is just weird. You probably don't notice this as much, but when I make a tweet about Tether, there is some really weird behavior of accounts jumping in. The type of messages. Go to my Twitter. Go to twitter.com/JulianHosp. Look at my tweet about Tether and just look at some of the comments there about accounts that are, it's a really strange behavior. Let's say it this way. It's not like these clear bot accounts, but it's like the type of messages, they're just weird. Like, oh, but Tether has been so stable. People who have been trying to short Tether have all been bankrupt, so you better not go against it or something. It's just like, it's really weird behavior. And then if you go click on the account, you look at the history of this account, these accounts do nothing else than post positive stuff about Tether. I don't know. That to me is just always super weird, because if you have a super legit business, you wouldn't need that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know, I just feel it's a bit weird. So to me, that's always the bit of the iffy part. I doubt that there's anything massively wrong. I do believe there is some gap somewhere, but yeah, very difficult. And obviously Tether is going to have this business just like Circle until that regulatory arbitrage is going to get closed. If it ever gets closed, what do I mean with this? The main utility crypto had so far was always a regulatory arbitrage, meaning TradFi just being way too slow, crypto innovating, and in this case it's just that stablecoins are not being treated as e-money. But if they ever get treated as e-money, then that regulatory arbitrage would break down. Good. Let's go to the super bullish part. And we basically have three things. And they're all connected to Bitcoin and Ethereum in this case. And we can then reflect. You can also let me know in the comments. Do you think that it's more bullish for Bitcoin or more bullish for Ethereum? First, Michael Saylor came out. They, for the first time in a long time, and again had a operationally cash flow positive quarter in Q2. It's been quite a while that they had that. So far, they've been burning cash. And I kind of did this calculation also, how Bitcoin really has to go up from here for him to have a chance to do a proper refinance in 2 years, because most of his debt is going to be due in 2 years. And at current prices, I doubt that he's going to be able to refinance with all the debt he has on the balance sheet right now. So let's see. With 30,000, I think it's going to be a bit tough. Obviously, it may not be any issue. He can simply issue more stock if people buy it, and he can dilute his stock holding this way and can buy more Bitcoin, or can buy the existing Bitcoin, so that's how he can refinance his debt level. He wants to buy $750 million worth of Bitcoin, and the company is issuing shares for that. So if I were a MicroStrategy shareholder, I would see this a bit of an issue. I would probably sell MicroStrategy right now. Not financial advice. I just don't understand how this is bullish for the stock price. The Bitcoin price briefly reacted in a positive manner. Also, I find it a bit weird why he announces this stuff so aggressively. if I had an interest to buy cheap, then I wouldn't be announcing this unless I wanted to push the price. There are definitely ways to announce this without having to push the price up. So, but the price didn't react. It reacted briefly. Now it's back down. I think his net holdings are in a negative, which is also crazy to consider, thinking about how much he bought, how much bitcoins he bought, and that the price is actually negative. I think that's crazy. Also considering how much Binance had to buy. So there's two large holders right now that are known holders that bought massively. Binance and MicroStrategy is just crazy that the price is actually not further up. I think actually that's a crazy kind of thing to consider. Also, so that's the first thing. Bullish, obviously, for the Bitcoin price that Saylor wants to buy. I think it's bearish for the value, but bullish for the price. Why bearish for the value? Because there's a concentration risk from him buying, and at some point he's going to have to sell his Bitcoins. Whatever people think or he says, at some point he will have to let them go. And him having so much is just a concentration risk, not a centralization risk, more of a concentration risk. Now, Ethereum was actually, now 6 companies have filed a Ethereum futures ETF. And to me, that's actually the most bullish thing in the entire thing. Why? Because so far there's no good institutional access from funds into an ETF. And so far we have seen that the Bitcoin futures ETF has been very spot on onto the Bitcoin price, so we can expect something similar to happen on Ethereum. And in my opinion, that's going to be very bullish for the Ethereum price. And it's actually going to be way more bullish, in my opinion, if the Bitcoin spot ETF actually gets approved. Why? Very simple. On Bitcoin, we already have all the pipes. We have basically any dollar that wants to go into Bitcoin can get into Bitcoin. Doesn't matter if it's pension funds, doesn't matter if it's any kind of ETF fund, doesn't matter if it's any kind of large endowment or whatever. They can all get access to Bitcoin. So what I think is going to happen with the Bitcoin spot ETF, if the Bitcoin spot ETF gets approved, then we're going to see obviously a strong brand increase for Bitcoin. But there's just going to be a reshuffling of assets. I think all the other funds and ETFs are going to lose, and they are going to get a massive influx. But I think net very little impact on actual dollar flow into institutional products. On Ethereum, very different. There is no product there at the moment. So while I'm dollar cost averaging DeFi, Ethereum, and I'm also dollar cost averaging Bitcoin, I think for all of this, this kind of news is going to be the most bullish for Ethereum. I think with all the stuff that's happening right now with meta chain layer on DeFi chain, I think there's a strong chance for DeFi to do the best. Obviously, it has the biggest risk, has the biggest volatility, biggest uncertainty, but Ethereum probably here a very nice combo. Also, quick point to make, Ethereum is the only chain right now that has a net return on its cash flow. All the others, Bitcoin, also DeFi chain, is inflation. Ethereum is the only one that's actually deflationary, whether you have an actual return. So it's very powerful. Quite interesting to see. It just shows that Ethereum is the one with the strongest use case. So very, very powerful to see. Yeah, that's it from the crypto space. Just briefly kind of reflecting on earnings. Very interesting. Amazon had very strong earnings. Apple, rather disappointing earnings. So let's see. Stock market is net down over the past week. This is also expected. So let's see how this is gonna go. As mentioned, I do think it's a good time to cycle a bit out of the big tech stocks, go into crypto dollar cost average. We just launched dollar cost averaging on Bake. Head over to bake.io. We have a very cool promotion where you have several things to win. The next thing we're gonna raffle off are AirPods and all the way up to a Tesla. So dollar cost average, and just by dollar cost averaging, you have a chance to participate in the raffles. Very cool. I can highly recommend go to bake.io and get started. With this, everyone, I wish you a beautiful day. I hope you have a good week. All the best in the meantime. Yours truly, Julian. Bye-bye.